Ranjan, Principal Secretary, Industries and Commerce and Information Technology Department, Telangana Government. Ranjan is the Principal Secretary of the Industries and Commerce and Information Technology Departments of the Telangana Government. He is responsible for developing policy frameworks, attracting new investments, identifying opportunities of utilizing IT in various government processes, and promoting digital empowerment of citizens. He has held executive positions with Industries and Tourism Promotion Departments as well as Hyderabad Urban Development Authority. He has worked in diverse sectors ranging from tribal development to natural resources management to poverty alleviation. Jayesh has undertaken a number of international consultancy assignments from the World Bank, UNESCAP, Mexico's SEDATU project, and international NGOs such as YES, Inc. and NUC. He holds a master's degree in psychology from Delhi University, a degree in business management from Indian Institute of Management, Calcutta, and a master's in public management from Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy, National University of Singapore. I would also like to welcome on stage Kate Wilson, Chief Executive Officer, Digital Impact Alliance, DIAL. Kate Wilson believes that digital technology products, new technology policies, and updated business model practices are required to make transformative change in the lives of the underserved and decrease the growing digital divide. Kate joined DIAL in February 2016 as its CEO to fulfill this vision. She has committed the past 26 years to bringing diverse stakeholders together to find common ground in business, technology policy, holding leadership roles in both the corporate and non-profit sector. Prior to DIAL, Kate co-founded and led the Digital Health Solutions Group at PATH, the Seattle-based international health organization driving transformative innovation to save lives. Over the course of her career, Kate held diverse senior roles in the commercial software sector and international trade. Kate holds an MBA and an MA in the Southeast Asian Studies from the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, and a BA in International Relations from the College of William and Mary.
How's that? A little bit better. Good morning, everybody. I'm very excited to be here this morning with one of the key architects of Telangana's transformation to ICT. As we heard from KT Rao earlier this morning, the transformation that has taken place here and the continuing journey is one of the important lessons, I think, for all countries, NGO implementers, multilaterals, and donors to learn from. My joyous task this morning is really to try and help pull out some of those specific examples and then open it up to you to ask Mr. Ranjan specifically how they did it. First, I'd like to just welcome you, Mr. Ranjan,
Thank
and
you.
then also ask you just to speak a little bit this morning about how Telangana has thought about tackling the SDGs specifically. I know that in many of your prior speeches and conversations, you've really focused on the role of local importance, the importance of local action to actually change and affect global or national goals. And I'd love it if you could tell us just a bit about some of the specific examples, in addition to what KT Rao shared with us this morning, about some of the things that you're doing here, as it affects agriculture, as it affects health, as it affects women's girls.
Thank you, Kate. Good morning, everyone. And from my side also, warm welcome to Hyderabad for those who are coming from outstation. I would, to answer this question from Kate, I would like to elaborate upon a point which our minister used in his opening speech. The minister mentioned that no technology is worth its name unless it creates a social impact. And in Telangana, we are really driven by this philosophy, this motto, that the technology has to be of use to the commonest person if it has to be scaled up or adopted by the entire state. Now, we know of the SDGs. We know that there are quite a few of them which speak about reducing poverty, which speak about sustaining livelihoods, which speak about special focus on women, on girls. The Minister himself gave a very important example. He mentioned that we are providing optic fiber cable to every household by linking it with the massive drinking water program which is going on in the state. We are using the same trenches, so to say, to lay optic fiber cables. So in that sense, Telangana is going to become the first state in the country where the entire broadband architecture, the hardware is going to be made available to the people. But our priorities are that while this physical infrastructure is put in place, are people ready to use it instantly? And that is again a very big concern for us. We know for sure that there are hundreds and thousands of families, even if you tell them that broadband has reached your doorstep, they are not going to immediately invest into devices, they are not going to rush to the markets to buy a laptop or a smartphone or something. Because for a variety of reasons. One, for them, some of them will not even be able to afford that. And for many others, this is not a matter of immediate priority for them because they don't really value what the benefit of broadband, what the benefit of connectivity is going to bring. So the approach which we follow here in Telangana is that unless we are able to demonstrate to them what benefit technology brings and what difference it can make to their day-to-day lives, we will not be able to get that large-scale usage, large-scale adoption that we are hoping for. And these are precisely the areas that you mentioned, agriculture, health, education, where these kind of demonstrations are happening. And since you asked for an example, let me give you a very quick example of agriculture, since this is an event organized primarily by ICRISAT. And ICRISAT is a partner actually in this initiative that I speak of. Now, many of you would be aware that one of the critical challenges which farmers in our country face is the lack of scientific information in real time. For example, let us say they are taking up their agriculture operations and suddenly they are confronted with something unusual, maybe a pest attack or some diseases. Now, most of them react to such situations in a very intuitive way. I mean, my father used to do this, so let me also do this. My grandfather used to do this, so let me also do this. There could be some logic in what they do, but perhaps that is not the best way or the most scientific way of doing that. So what we are doing with the help of ICRISAT, Microsoft, CDAC and other players is that we have lots of extension staff in the government who work with the farmers. So we are giving each of these extension staff a device called a phablet, which will have a very sophisticated camera. So let us say I am an extension officer and I have, let us say, 10 villages in my catchment area. So when the crops are on, I go and take pictures of the crop. Now in one of the representative fields, I will also have sensors which will capture lots of weather data. For instance, what's the moisture, what's the humidity, what's the alkalinity, and so on and so forth. So that data will be pulled into this device, the phablet. The pictures will be there. And these will be transmitted to the scientists who will be at ICRISAT, who will be in our research universities, and aggregating the weather data and the pictures of the crops. They will be able to precisely tell that, okay, you do this intervention, you do that application, and so on and so forth. And again, the device will capture that advisory and it will be relayed back to the farmers. In fact, we have also been able to get some very good startup solutions into this. There is a startup which is operating from our tech incubator that the minister alluded to called the T-Hub, which has developed a solution in the sense that it has taken pictures of all possible pest scenarios and the phablet has them preloaded. So the moment you take a picture, there is a picture recognition match and you don't need to even send that back to the scientist. The device itself tells you that this is the most likely pest which is attacked and if the weather conditions are like these are the possible recommendations. So using sophisticated modeling techniques, it is possible to bring technology to support what the farmers really need. And if the farmers, if hundreds of them, thousands of them see the benefit of using technology in a very direct way and in a way which makes a real difference to them, they will therefore be more open to testing other ideas using technology eventually will be interested in investing in devices, getting onto what we in our country call the information superhighways and so on and so forth. So this is the approach. While we deliver, while we kind of supply hard infrastructure, but we also create demand, we also create a strong receiving mechanism to these kind of technology demonstrations in areas which mean more to the common persons.
Thank you. And I think so many countries have seen that sort of combination of both bringing the digital infrastructure and some of the supply with the demand, and that combination of strategies being so critical. And you highlighted that nicely, as did the Minister this morning. I was curious if you could dig in a little bit to some of the cultural barriers that have alluded to and that he mentioned this morning, and creating digital literacy within at least one person in the household. But what are some of the challenges that you've seen in overcoming some of those more traditional ways of doing things? That behavior change is always so critical to making some of these things happen. And what have you tried that you think other countries might benefit from trying as well in their homes?
Yeah. So, Kate, I don't need to overemphasize the importance of creating that receiving mechanism. So you may supply all kinds of things, but unless there is a strong receiving mechanism to receive all that at the grassroots, you may keep on supplying, but nothing really will change. I mean, things will remain as they are. So that is one. Now, two very important points from what you spoke about. One is that there are obviously some very important cultural barriers which come in the way of creating that kind of a receiving mechanism. Now, one very important barrier, which is an unfortunate reality in our country, is that let us say technology, computers, these are all considered to be elitist phenomena. I mean, only if you live in a city, only if you speak in English, only if you are well educated, will you be able to master technology. Otherwise, you are not expected to even go near it. That is the way it has been kind of projected for the last so many decades. And of course, there are some valid reasons also. For example, we know for sure that most of the internet, the web content is in English, the keyboards are in English, and not knowing that language is a barrier. So in other forums like the ICANN, etc., our national government, state government, we incidentally hosted the last edition of ICANN here in Hyderabad, in this very hall, and we made a very strong pitch that unless localization, that is local language usage of the content is encouraged, made more and more popular, we will be creating that digital divide. We will be perpetuating that digital divide. So that is one phenomenon. The second unfortunate reality is that the credibility of the government machinery in the eyes of the poor and the marginalized is unfortunately very low. So if I go and tell someone that see technology is something, this is your savior and you must get on to it, people will only laugh at me. They may perhaps think that I am a salesman selling some computers and I have some deal in that, and that is how I will be dismissed. So the way we are trying to overcome these problems is, number one, as I already explained, by creating demonstrations, strong demonstrations which matter, which are targeted at areas which mean a lot to the people. The second very interesting thing which we are doing, as the Minister mentioned, we are taking broadband to the villages, to the households, and we also are conscious that people are not going to invest in devices right away. So in every village, we are creating a common facility, a common internet center that we call the Digital Telangana Center, DTCs. And as the Minister mentioned, there are close to 9,000 village councils, actually 7,800 to be precise. And in each of these, we are trying to institute one of these Digital Telangana centers. And the amazing thing is that we are ensuring that each of these centers are operated by a local woman entrepreneur who is identified from amongst the community. And we invest a lot in training that woman, building her capacities, not only increasing her internet knowledge or computer knowledge, but also how does one bring that facility to the community, in what way is that communication happening. So lots of other skills are also being used. There's a UNDP support to this initiative of ours. And we have got almost 1,500 of these centers up and running. And the initial results are very, very encouraging. Because it is a woman who is from that community, who is one amongst them. So obviously her credibility is higher as compared to someone coming from outside, that was a government representative with lots of baggage, etc. And she is able to convince the community and also show to them that this is the way in which connectivity can be utilized by us positively. And we are also offering lots of G2C services through the centers, lots of banking services. The minister mentioned that we are now the #1 in the country in terms of digital payments. So lots of that happens through these centers, lots of banking transactions, financial transactions, etc.
Thank you. A few years ago, I worked on, with a number of colleagues in the ICT for Health sector, looking at some of the specific foundational components that were required to take things to scale. And in that work, one of the things that we tried to do for the sector as a whole was to start thinking about how do we go beyond scale that's measured in the number of people in which we have actually served, and really start to look at the point at which technology is so institutionalized in the way that we do everything that we no longer talk about digital tools as something separate from the rest of our programming. Telangana is well on its way there. And I wanted to call out just some of the components that we thought were probably useful in that work, and wonder if you could comment on what things you all have really emphasized as functional pieces. So whether it be leadership, you clearly have that from both the national level down through the state and to your office, to the right solutions, to the enabling environment, to the economic models. Just if you could comment on some of those things that you all have really invested time and attention in that you thought were critical, as well as what you wished you had known, several years ago before you even embarked on this and had spent a little bit more time doing differently. Because I think we learn as much from others' successes as we do from their challenges.
So Kate, I would like to reiterate that while this framework is perfect, but I would like to reiterate that creating that receiving mechanism is the most important and also the most daunting. Because if you want to ensure that 9 million households that are located in the state of Telangana, each of them appreciate the value of technology, each of them are willing to invest, each of them are willing to kind of synergize their efforts. It's not something which is going to happen overnight. It requires lots of planning, lots of effort. And having said that, now all the rest of the pieces in this framework, leadership, solutions, approach, building capacities, each of them are important. You rightly mentioned that Digital India, the national flagship program, gives us lots of support and momentum at the state level. Today we are able to convince every other stakeholder within the government, outside the government, because Digital India is now seen as a flagship program. In fact, states compete amongst each other to show better results, better outcomes, and obviously Telangana is counted as one of the best performing states in Digital India. So the national leadership, national trust is important. Obviously in our state, all of us just heard our minister, and you would have appreciated the kind of sincerity he brings when he says that Telangana has to become a technology-enabled state. And the solutions, as he explained, we have bunched the solutions into two parts. One is the supply part, where he explained about getting fiber to every household. We also do a bunch of other things. We are one of the states which has created a very conducive environment for all the 4G rollout. As you know, telecoms are very aggressively rolling out 4G solutions, and this is one state where they have found it very, very easy to do that. And at this point in time, as we speak, more than 90% of the state, actually 93% of the state, is within 4G coverage. And we are also bringing Wi-Fi to our cities. So in Hyderabad, for example, within a matter of, let us say, 2 to 3 months, there will be 3,000 hotspots where public can access Wi-Fi for free. So supply is one component of our solution. We are also looking at demand. Digital literacy is one, but demonstrating the value of technology through appropriate solutions is what we focus on. And as I said, they span various sectors where a common person can easily benefit. Capacity, as I said, is one is of course the capacity of the communities, on which I need not lay more and more stress. but also capacity of the implementing mechanism, the government machinery which needs to deliver these programs to the people. As I said, we are focusing on a community-based model. These the women entrepreneurs of these 8,000 digital Telangana centers are eventually the most critical piece in that element. So we invest lots of time and resources in building their capacities. We bring them to Hyderabad. There is some centralized modules which are delivered. Then there are decentralized follow-up trainings and so on and so forth. But to answer your other question on, in hindsight, what exactly occurs to us would have been much more relevant and much more important for us. Now, these obviously, because of these cultural barriers, mindsets, etc., it takes time for people to kind of respond. And given the fact that digital is something which many people are not familiar with, it is only now that we are familiarizing them. Of course, the digital payments push has come in quite handy. But what we could have really benefited from was the possibility of introducing digital education right from early childhood. So when a child is admitted in a school and when he starts his learning, suppose we had introduced digital learning from, let us say, grade 5th or grade 6th, etc. We are doing that now. In fact, we have a very ambitious program. We are starting from grade 7th onwards and ensuring that all subjects in the schools, so 6,000 schools are covered in this state. But had we done this maybe a decade ago or whenever it was earliest possible, the struggle that we face now in convincing people about the benefit of digital might not have happened. So if anyone is starting now, schools is the best place to start, and it's really a low-hanging fruit. All the modules are available, technologies are there. One doesn't really require to invest a lot. It's a moderate kind of, the size of investment is moderate, and the benefits are unbelievable. Once a child gets familiar with digital technologies through his classroom teaching learning process, he remains hooked on it for life.
Thank you. With the attacks over the weekend, which have brought down a number of countries' systems, and the minister's emphasis on your both open data as well as cybersecurity, I was hoping that you might be able to share with the audience a bit about how you all are tackling increases in attacks, potentially on state-level systems, helping your citizens actually understand what some of those might mean as education increases. There's some insecurity about people's data, and how you think about those increased vulnerabilities as they relate to your open data policy.
So what's happening now is bound to happen again and again and again. There are some people who, out of sheer malice or sheer fun maybe, they will continue to do these kind of things, and unless we are better prepared. And this is a kind of a continuous vigil. I mean, there is no one-stop preparation. You need to keep updated. Telangana is the only state in the country which has a state-level cybersecurity policy. In fact, there is of course a national cybersecurity policy, but states don't have independent policies except us. We are the only state which has this. And in our cybersecurity policy, we have prioritized a number of state-level interventions. For example, setting up our own CERT, our own emergency response team, setting up our own SOC, as well as creating a pool of trained professionals. We call them, within quotes, cyber warriors. So having a pool of cyber warriors who can in turn alert, who can in turn monitor these kind of breaches, who can alert, who can also create large-scale awareness amongst the people. So these things are being rolled out. I mean, I can't say that we have a perfect cyber defense system, but the fact that amongst this panic which is going on, we have not been hit at all. I mean, none of our government websites at least have been compromised. All the data is secure, everything is in place, and which is not true of many other Indian states. Some of the states have lost critical data, some of them have been compromised. But definitely it is something which, while the government can play some role, other stakeholders also. There are lots of private stakeholders who have very, very valuable data. Lots of, in fact, Hyderabad, some of you may or may not be aware, is a place where this is an important data center location. So lots of important financial data. Just to share with you, the entire data of government of Bhutan is located here in Hyderabad. All the national payment corporations of India, NPCI, which is into this RuPay and all these digital transactions, their data centers are located in Hyderabad. So Hyderabad that way houses some very, very important and very kind of sensitive databases. And therefore, the better protected we are, the better it will be for everyone.
Thank you. We have just a few minutes. I was wondering if we might be able to open it up for 1 to 2 questions from the audience.
Is there a
question and your feedback on that as the digital transformation is happening at a pace that is unimaginable, the physical world transformation to match that expectation of the digital world is happening at a lower pace. So therefore, the example you gave is a very good one where fiber optic cables and water pipelines are going together. To me, that is a perfect synchrony. Otherwise, if I make a digital payment to buy water, but the water is not reaching me, then my expectations become different. So any comments on that, that is the pace of digital transformation too aggressive compared to the physical reality?
So the physical bottleneck is only connectivity. If you are able to provide connectivity, as I said, while broadband is very robust and very reliable, but 4G is being rolled out very aggressively by the telcos as well in the state. So once some form of connectivity is there, then we can ride on it, and as the minister referred to in his speech, it opens up lots of possibilities, digital education, digital health. The difficulty will be in getting people, a participant into that initiative, because many of them will still feel that this is not for me, this is only for the rich, this is only for the elite. And unless that barrier, the mindset is broken. And I outlined on how we are trying to break that mindset. So, I mean, it's not that aggressive in that sense. I mean, the timelines are quite realistic. Budgets have all been tied up. The approach is tested and is delivering. I told you about these digital Telangana centers we have set up in around 1,200 locations. They are doing phenomenal number of transactions. People are getting empowered. Startups are participating. Corporates are taking interest. We have more than 20 corporate partnerships today in the government for various kind of digital solutions. So I really don't agree that we are approaching too aggressively without accepting the ground realities.
There's one more in the back. And then I think sadly I'm going to have to wrap up for that.
Thank you. Hello, Mr. Secretary. You have spoken often of the barriers to implementing the system and the need for a receiver mechanism. And I wondered if you might comment on approaches to human-centered design that might be used in trying to overcome these barriers, where you actually work with the end users to design the system. And forgive me, I'm Andrea Bernisky from Purdue University Global Engineering Programs.
Yeah, thanks for this input. I'd like to have a conversation with you to learn more about thank you.
And then I think this gentleman in the front. And then I'm getting my sequence to wait up.
Right here, right here.
Okay, I think we could probably ask questions of you all day, sir. I thank you so much for taking the time to join us in your very busy schedule, and thank you so much for the insights.
Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the conference.